Good afternoon. I would like to welcome all members and guests to our January 25th, 2023 council meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised, and I would ask you to ensure your phones are on silent mode. For those attending virtually, please mute yourself when not speaking. When called upon to speak, please turn your camera on and unmute yourself. Staff in attendance, please use the Microsoft Team hand raised feature icon to be called upon and remove it after finished speaking. And with that, I call the January 25th, 2023 regular council meeting to order. We do have some changes to the agenda, but first up, I'll just go for it, Teresa. First up, I believe we're going to look to approve the budget. And that is out of our order on the agenda. Is that okay with everyone?
So through the mayor, if I may, if we can just approve the changes to the agenda first and then move into the budget committee.
Okay, the following items have been added to the agenda. Item 6.4, item 6.5, item 6.4, presentation from Mr. Todd Stepanek. Item 6.5, deputation from Ellen La Rochelle regarding agenda item 11.2.3 ZMPL 2022-265 to 323 and 327 St. George Street, Port Dover, CD 22104. Item 10.3 accessibility advisory committee meeting minutes October 26, 2022. Item 12.18 bylaw 2023-14. And the following item has been removed from the agenda. Item 16.4 integrity commissioner report. The following items have been updated and replaced due to clerical errors. Agenda item 8.1 council minutes December 20th, 2022 open. Item 9.4 January 18th, 19th, 2023 budget committee meetings. Item 11.2.1 OPNPL 2022-2315 and ZMPL 2022-134 to 14099 Wyndham Road 19 CD 2209 attachments A and B were replaced. And lastly, item 11.2.2 28TPL 2020-212 and ZNPL 2020-213 Lindock subdivision CD 23007 attachment B was amended to remove the fire and emergency services section. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Michele, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll go right over to the budget committee meeting minutes.
Sorry, through the mayor, we should probably also do disclosure of pecuniary interest.
That's very important. Well, thank you, Teresa. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Teresa, do we have the budget items separated for my disclosure that I previously declared?
Through the mayor, I don't believe we need that because we did that as a separate meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, seeing no disclosures of pecuniary interest, now we will go over to the budget committee meeting minutes and look to ratify the budget. Okay, so the minutes are before you. Are there any comments, questions, concerns, any items you want to address? Budget committee meeting items in full. They're all separate pages, Councillor Breton. So we've got, we're adopting the full budget at the end is what we're doing. So You're okay? Might as well. Do you have a question about the rate? Okay, Councillors Duthie and Van Andriesche, we were just debating whether or not we were doing both or doing rate versus levy. So any questions regarding either of the budgets, now is the appropriate time. Otherwise, we're going to pass them. Councillor Brunton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question on the rate budget. Have we, and I guess this is to the county manager, do we have a signed agreement with how it relates to the entire budget? So
through you, Madam Chair, you're talking in relation to the interurban water. So we have, both councils have passed a resolution. We've got a draft agreement. We are working on finalizing that agreement, and we're hoping that within the next couple of months that will be finalized.
and that agreement will come before this council.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any questions as it pertains to budget? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to approve both sets of minutes. You want two separate motions, or we can do them combined in one mover, one seconder? Okay, great. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Duthie, seconded by Councillor Huffman. Call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move along with the agenda. So we have, sorry, I didn't share with you a note earlier. We have a couple presentations and deputations regarding the drainage matters. Council will consider the accompanying reports, and we will allow the public an opportunity to speak to both. We have no early closed items. We have one consent item today. That's Information Memo 2023 Rate Supported Operating Budget Rate Impact Update. Can I have a mover and a seconder to approve consent item 5.1 as presented? Councillor Michele, seconded by Councillor Berry. All those in favor? Carried. We're going to, excuse me, move along into presentations and deputations. We have two presentations and three deputations. I would ask council to accept the deputations for information after each speaker. Should committee wish to direct staff to bring a report on any of the following matters for further discussion, that can occur following all of the deputations. We're going to move into the drainage matters on our agenda. Council consideration of drainage matters is regulated under Section 42 of the Drainage Act. As a reminder, council cannot address assessments and may only consider the report content such as design, cost, and location of the proposed work. Assessments are addressed through the Drainage Act appeals. Council will be considering first and second reading of a bylaw and considering staff report EIS 23002 regarding Regional Road 21 drain. All affected owners and agencies have been notified of this meeting in accordance with the Drainage Act requirements. We're going to move along to 6.1, which is presentation from Stephen Brickman, Headway Engineers regarding Regional Road 21 drain. Welcome, Stephen. You can head up to the podium there. And staff, they have a slide deck of yours? Perfect. They've already got it. So please let staff know when you'd like them to advance the slide. That microphone there has a talk button on it. So go ahead and you can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to present this report. I have put together a slide deck, and then I also have a copy of the report here as well. I trust that everybody's had a chance to review this report. The slide deck is intended to kind of help our pace as we go through this report. Do you mind advancing the slide to the next page, please? Thank you. So the authority for preparing this report, it came from a council meeting on June 14th of 2022. It's about 7 months ago, and that was under Section 4 of the Drainage Act. There was some appointments prior to that, but this June 14th, 2022 appointment is the one that authorizes this report. Do you mind going to the next slide, please? Thank you. Next slide, just on the right-hand side, shows an outline of the county, and there's a red call out roughly in the middle of the county near Lyndoch. It shows the location of the project. It's on the east side of Lyndoch. In the call out there's a purple shaded area there, that more or less represents the watershed for the area. Just in the interest of time, I understand that I only have 5 minutes to present this. I'm going to maybe skip the discussion about the existing municipal drains in place. So if you don't mind just advancing the slide, please. Thank you. There was a few engagements, mostly stakeholder engagements, but an on-site meeting was originally held in 2009, and then there were petitioner meetings in January of 2021, August of 2021, and January of 2022, and then a public information meeting was held March 9th of 2022. Do you mind going to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this slide here, getting into some of the findings and some of the reasons that that this drain is kind of come up. There's an existing private drainage system in place, and that's highlighted on this slide on the right-hand side by the black dashed line and solid line through the rear yards of these properties which front onto Lindock Road, mostly through the rear yards. This system that's highlighted here in black is a private drainage system. It's not a municipal drainage system. Downstream at this point, there is an existing municipal drainage system highlighted by the pink line. And this existing system that's in place is in a poor state of repair. It's undersized, it alternates between open and closed, and it's just in bad condition. Could you please advance the slide? The approximate watershed area is about 90 acres, and it drains generally from east to west. So from the east side of Lindock and then passing through until it hits Big Creek. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the next few slides are some photos that were taken. And then on the right-hand side, we have a key plan basically with an aerial image and some results of some existing modeling work that was taken. There's also a green arrow on the right-hand image as well, just showing the vantage point for the photo on the left-hand side. In this photo, you can see there's quite a bit of flooding area. It's located on the west side of this development property in Lindock. And if you could go to the next page, please. Next slide is the next photo is in a very similar location, but looking more at the road. It obviously shows the water coming from the road and then coming from the other side of the road too. Next page, please. This is moving into the backyards on Lindock Road or fronting onto Lindock Road, just showing the flow path of the existing storm event as it moves through. The next page, please. So this is a similar location, just upstream a little bit further. And then if we can move on to the last photo, the next page, please. Perfect. This is a photo taken in the agricultural area behind the rear yards. And again, it just shows the flooding that's occurring there too. So some of our findings with respect to surface flooding. Could you please advance to the next slide? Another finding too is that that the county intends to redo Regional Road 21, resurface the road through there. So that's a pretty important part too. We're coupling basically this construction with that resurfacing or that construction work as well. And the next page, please. So what we're recommending is to construct a new municipal drainage system. It's called Regional Road 21 Municipal Drain. It's designed to a 1 in 5 year event, and pipe sizes range from 15-inch to 48-inch diameter pipe. It consists of a main drain plus 3 branches, branches A and B to be incorporated on the development property, and then branch C, which extends up Charlotteville Road 12 and hooks up with the existing private system. The outlet for the system is the Tahuti Ravine, which therefore requires some ravine improvements as well. Can we go to the next slide as well? This image on the left-hand side is the exact same one that was the key plan before. It shows the existing flood limits for a rainfall event. And then on the right-hand side is the predicted flood limits if this system gets constructed and the existing private system still would remain in place. But there'd be vast improvements upstream of, especially upstream of Charlotteville Road 12. Can we go to the next slide, please? Another pretty big factor too is there is an existing municipal drainage system downstream. And this area, which is kind of outlined in blue, but a portion of it is highlighted now in red, that red area gets removed from the existing municipal drain and put into the new municipal drain. In other words, it provides relief to the private system and the municipal drain. One of the big reasons that we can expect to see improvements in flooding. And the next page, please. This is my last slide. The estimated cost of the project basically, you can just jump down right to the bottom line there. Roughly $1.4 million is the estimate. That estimate is made up of the categories that are above that: allowances, construction, engineering, and that sort of thing. And then the pie chart on the left-hand side shows a visual breakdown of that cost estimate. So if there's any questions, that completes my presentation. If there's any questions regarding that report.
Thank you, Mr. Brickman. Are there any questions of council to the engineer? Okay, seeing none. Are there any members of the public in attendance who would like to ask a question of the engineer? Okay, thank you very much for coming. We are going to move along to the staff presentation. Regional Road 21 Drain Report for consideration, EIS 23002. Mr. Grice, General Manager, Environmental Infrastructure Services, are you presenting or kicking us off?
Sorry, through the chair, I certainly can, although I don't think I have much to say. It was really captured very well by the consultant. You'll see the report in front of you today really just outlines what he has already covered. So real happy to take any additional questions that you may have of staff.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Andriesch, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, and thank you for seeing my hand. My question would be, because of where the area is and the new construction, where the new proposal of subdivision is, meeting the old subdivision that's there is a low point there. Is that, like, I saw just a little bit of it, but is that going to alleviate that issue that's going to end up there, because water's going to flow down that way, surface water? Is that going to alleviate all that problem?
So through the chair, I believe that is the intent, but that really is a question that Mr. Brickman could certainly verify. I also should mention that we have both Bill Mays and Chris Dunn with us today. Those are our drainage superintendents. They normally would be there in person, but they're at their annual drainage meeting today, so they are also calling in virtually. But either the engineer or one of them can confirm.
Thank you. Yeah, so the drainage system that we're proposing provides an outlet of that to be the southwest corner of the property, which is a low point for that proposed development. Our system is designed for the 1 in 5 year event. In other words, it would drain all flow for up to the 5-year event. Events larger than a 5-year would be contained in the drainage system that will be on the development property. It would not be passed on downstream or onto the it'd be in the drainage system basically, but not in the rear yards or side yards of the future developments.
And just a further question to that, you've had consultations with the residents in that area. Are they satisfied with what's going on and what's proposed? Andrew, I'd ask that to you, I guess.
So through the chair, I mean, I believe the engineer could also answer this as well, but I do believe that there's been a number of on-site meetings. Certainly all the concerns have been heard from our residents, and the engineer's done the best job to come up with the most economical solution that achieves our needs. But I certainly don't want to speak for him, but we have not heard anything in the negative from residents ourselves.
And if I may add, I just don't want to speak for the public on that either. But we did have a public information meeting with essentially this proposal.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that all the residents could understand what was going on, but I know that area, and I know that there is an issue with the water meeting there at that one point off the road. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Van Andriesch. We will continue with our questions to council, and then I'll give members in attendance a final call to come up and ask any questions. So if there's any concerns, we can try to capture them then. Councillor Breton, then Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question, I'm not sure who's going to answer it, maybe. I followed this pretty close, and I see there was 2 approaches. One was to rebuild at 1.8 way back, and now we swung over to include the drain. We were going to rebuild the Lindock Road, I guess, at 1.8 without any work under the Drainage Act. Am I correct on that? That was the original proposal from our staff.
I So yes, I believe that that was the original proposal, knowing that that plan was coming up and knowing that this drainage system was also in the works too. It made sense to couple the works into one, and then also to relieve not doing work basically in the rear yards, in order to not have redundant basic systems, basically.
So if I'm right, then the price has changed by doing that down to 1.4 million, correct? But I read in there we're going to debenture our share of that for 10 years. And that's another borrowing cost for us versus, I think in the original one, we're going to finance it through gas tax and so forth. Maybe Andrew can answer that question. Do you think is staff in favor of that? It's a 10-year borrowing cost, and I think it's going to come up to over $1 million.
So through the chair, I'd certainly lean towards Kathy or Heidi from a financial perspective to comment on that.
Through the chair, Councillor Button, can you repeat your question just to make sure I'm clear on what you're asking?
Well, I'm reading under page 252 of the documents here about the report, and it says, this is our staff report, and it says we're going to, in addition, the project will increase Norfolk County's projected debt servicing costs to $116,000 a year for 10 years. And I assume that went up as of this morning. I see the Bank of Canada rate went up, so that 4.5 might be a little low now. But are you trying to tell us something by borrowing that money, or it's right in the report?
Table 1 and 2, Kathy, I know staff doesn't have those same page numbers, but table 1 and 2 of the staff report.
I'll try to attempt this right now, but to let you know, the 4.5 will still most likely be efficient, as we do build in when we are budgeting because we project higher than what we actually think, or we think the rates are going to be, just to be on the safe side. So we budget very conservatively. And we do put this in here just to let council know that from a financial perspective, we don't have any funds. We have to finance these projects up front. So we issue debentures to finance rather than using the taxpayers' dollars that we have maybe on hand, and then it's paid over the 10 years.
Well, I guess that's my question. It says 10 years in here, but also it says the gas tax, you're going to come back to try and find another use for that gas tax that was planned in the original proposal at 1.8. So you're telling me you're in favor of the borrowing versus using some of the gas tax?
Amy may be able to help me out, but I'll start. If I'm correct, the gas tax was included in here. However, we feel the gas tax funding should be used for taxpayers' infrastructure projects, as opposed to projects that will be recovering from residents. And if it was only our portion, Norfolk County's portion, we would have no problem or no issue using the gas tax funding for that. So I think at the time when we budgeted for the original grant back in how many years ago, there wasn't the understanding that that we're funding debentures for the residents, as opposed to just using that funding for major infrastructure for roads or water, sewer, etc.
Okay, and my last question, I guess, to the engineering. I know Lindog has had well problems in the past. I don't know the status out there, but you refer to the geotechnical report where you looked at the wells that are significantly out there. Is that, I didn't see a report, it's just a comment in the report that they don't feel there'd be a problem, but is there a lengthy report that was carried out on the water wells out there?
For the municipal drainage project, so sorry, through the mayor, for the municipal drainage project, the geotechnical engineer was used to assess the stability of the ravine and the proposed erosion protection that we'd be putting in the ravine. I think that the report that you're referring to is for the development, which is not this project or not this engineer.
Okay, so would they consider the private owners that are existing their wells?
I don't know the answer to what that geotechnical study took care of.
Well, I guess my question would be to Andrew, would our staff have considered that?
So through the chair, Mike's probably going to come online, but that is a separate component, as the engineer just mentioned, as part of our planning process. So I see Mike turned his camera on there. He can provide some more information.
Yes, be happy to. Through the chair to the councillor. Yes, as part of the application, there was a study that was submitted by the proponent. They went through, they assessed all the private wells in the area. And through the application process, we've had that peer reviewed, and we went back and forth with their engineering firm. And now we are satisfied of what they have submitted is in actual compliance with the Ontario regulations. So they did the monitoring wells in the area. They've done the pump pipe tests. So they feel there's no actual water issues there.
Thank you.
Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to Mr. Grice, and I'd like to know what the start date, finish date is expected for this particular project. And when we tender for contractors, will it be two different contractors, one to do the drainage work, one to do the road, or how will that work? Good, please.
Yeah, once again, I can answer that if that's okay with you, Andrew. Through the chair to the councillor. Yeah, assuming the acceptance of the report, Ashley today by council, and subject to further appeals, the court of revision. We don't know what the exact time frame is for the pipe tender. However, it is will be all put out as one, so it will be the road portion for Lindock as well for the municipal pipe drain aspect as well too. So we hope, if everything goes according to plan, the tendering will likely be done in the summer.
Okay, and construction, when then? You expect?
Probably shortly after that, but also we have to work through the application plan for the proponent as well too, to make sure that we have the agreement signed before we can start anything. So that's in the planning world now. We've had back and forth meetings. We're starting to review the documents. This is one of the major pieces that we have to have in place, because they need to have like legal and actually the legal and the actually outlet. So by getting this in place, that is step one, so they can actually proceed on the application.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
Any further questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open it back up one final time to see if there are any members of the public in attendance that wish to ask questions of our staff. Come on up. You can join us at the podium there. Turn that microphone on. Yes, please. Yep. Sorry, just one minute. If we can get you to turn on that microphone and then state your name and, sorry, I'm just looking at the quick name and address. Just your name for the public record, and then go ahead and state your question.
Casual. I live in Lindock. I was just wondering, is the road construction going all the way down to the bridge?
We'll let our staff chime in and answer that. Mr. Grice, Mr. King.
Yes, I'd be happy to answer that through the chair. Yes, we are planning to do the storm work to replace the curb and gutter and do asphalt paving all the way down to, I believe it's the street is actually Boswell Street, which is near the bridge.
Okay, thank you. Got another one. I need you to state your name, ma'am, for the public record.
Bobby and Brady, and I am a resident of Lindock as well. Mr. Brickman, I'm trying to get a timeline here. You gave us a nice layout of what has precipitated the need for the upgrade to the drain. Can you give me an idea of when the county would have realized that there was a problem with water pooling in the Lindock area?
What I could say is that I believe that the petition signed by the county, I think it was signed around the 2009 mark. I don't know if there was a second petition by the county, which came much more recently. I think it was something like that anyway. I mean, perhaps one of the staff could actually help out with that, but yeah.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. I don't know if staff have anything different to chime in on. The 2009 number is before my time, but I do remember our last term of council looked at these photos as well, so it's been ongoing for us. Staff, do you have any comments on maybe Mr. Dunn? Yeah, perfect. Take it away, Chris.
Yep. I do apologize. I don't have all of the exact documents in front of me today, just given the circumstances. But this project has been ongoing for quite some time. We did have issues with having to change engineers midway through this project, which did delay the process a little bit. But with that said, it did come with a bit of a positive that we're able to deal with the development application as well as the road project and the Norfolk County Stormwater all within one, rather than having to come back and deal with it on multiple separate different occasions.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for those answers. So we've known since 2009 that there's a problem with water in Lindock. It's now 2023. Was this ever a line item in a budget in the past? So we recognized this work needed to be done. Was it a line item? I'd take that as a no.
Sorry, Bobby, and Kathy's got her hand up behind you and I didn't recognize it. Go ahead, Kathy. Thank you.
Through the mayor. So for the drains budget, for construction of drains, we allocate a budget line item annually over the 10 years. I believe it's 550,000 or more for drains. As the drains come up every year, that is the budget, but no, they're not identified individually. We have a list of those drains and they're all at varying stages of construction. So that's why we don't budget them separately.
However, the road work capital would have been.
That's correct. The road work was.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. So what is the date that the development came forward?
Yeah, I can try to answer that. I'm not exactly sure on the date, but I believe that the application was made in around 2019 or 2020.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get a timeline of all of these things. So then, Mr. Brickman, you said that there was a decision to couple these issues. Mr. Brunton, Councillor Brunton talked about the road work, and then why all of a sudden did we couple those? And you explained that nicely. Can you tell me what date we're looking at when those decisions to couple were made?
That date isn't, no, sorry, through the mayor. That date is in the report too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to actually give a little bit of insight on that as well. We did have a capital project for the resurfacing Lindock Road from Forestry Farm Road all the way through the area which we're looking at now, the curb area. But as we were looking at that, we realized that the section that we are going to replace under this this actual project had issues with the piping that was under the curb now. There was no illegal outlet for the actual water in the roadway. So then we knew that the other report was going at the same time. So we thought it would be advantageous if we combined each one of the projects. So in 2021, we shortened our project for Lindock Road. We stopped short of the curb area, and then we budgeted for this portion of it in 2023.
Sorry. Yeah, and just I guess that those dates make sense with me. In a report under heading 4.3, petitioner meeting number 1, which was held January of 2021, that was when the discussion about basically learning that system was coming forward, and then to couple the two jobs in the one location.
Would it be beneficial for Would it be beneficial for council to ask staff to put together a timeline in writing for you?
That would be fantastic.
Okay, because I appreciate your questions and your concerns. We're supposed to
Move on.
ask about the engineering and so, but I'm happy to get the information.
A timeline would be fantastic. And just one last question, if I may. So the development had no impact on whether or not we were fixing this drainage?
So is the drainage work occurring because of the development? Is that what you're, okay. Okay, so unless staff has, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. A petition by the county was signed as well. Regional Road 21 requires an outlet at this location that we extend up to, and so does Charlotteville Road 12 in 2 locations. A drainage system was coming. So yes, that another petition by the developer as well. I mean, I think just everything kind of came together, but a drainage system was coming.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So just to clarify, Ms. Brady, I guess you're wondering what the timeline was that encouraged the drain work. Was it development or was it the county's own doing? And so that's the basis for the timeline. Okay, so we will move along unless are there any other questions? You go ahead and please approach the podium, and I will just remind everyone that our questions are supposed to be as per the Drainage Act that we are assembled under for today, related to content such as design, cost, and location of the proposed drainage work. However, we will get that information together. And if you could state your name.
Hi, I'm Brian Belger. I'm the one that's been complaining since 2009.
I thought you looked familiar, sir. I remember the photos. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
So I got a couple questions. First question is, the existing drain, will it be blocked off on Clover property? Like I see there's an open ditch coming around. So the existing drain there be blocked off, like closed off, so no water goes through it, through the backyards.
And through the mayor, the answer is yes, the existing drain would be capped at the Clover property. Yeah.
One more thing, so what's gonna happen, so the water comes to the main road? So that spot right where that drain is, it's, that's where the water is. So you're gonna bring the water to the middle of the road. So you're gonna have to go very deep. Like, very deep to get, to have the run, like, that water, how are you gonna get that water? Not pooling in that spot.
And through the mayor too, in that location, we have 2 inlets. We have a primary inlet at the south and west corner of the Clover property, plus a secondary inlet raised up in the event that the primary becomes clogged. And yes, the pipe is going to be deep. The deepest place that the pipe will be is actually at the Charlotteville Road 12 intersection.
Okay.
But yes, it is going to be deep, and the profiles are in the report here too.
That's it.
Question? Yep, sure. Please go ahead and state your name.
My name is Janet Tapes. The drain system that Brian brought up, our property runs directly along that line. My question then is to that drain system. I think in your diagrams, it's diagram A. That's an open drain.
Through the mayor, branch A is an open drain. Yes.
And how close to the property line will that drain system be?
And through the mayor, I'm just going to check the drawings in the report. Just 1 second.
Okay. It's
2 different engineers involved, so there's a little change in format. I'd have to scale it off. Oh.
sorry. Does staff have that answer on how close to the property lines?
If I would approximate, that the center line of that channel would be about 4 meters or so off the property. The center line of the channel.
My concern is in the row of trees that exists along that line and whether or not those row of trees will be disrupted by the new drain system that comes in because of the root system.
and through the mayor, this system, so the branch A portion, it's an incorporation of works that were completed like by the developer through MT as the engineer. So I think that would be better answered by the developer's engineer, not by me. Yeah, we've just incorporated basically their works into this.
Okay, do our staff have are they able to help out here in any way, shape, or form? We're looking for just a question concerning disruption of the tree lines on the property through the development engineer information. Go ahead, Chris, whenever you're ready.
So Steve would have, the engineer would have the most appropriate information that's available in front of him for the drawing. So I would be trying to pull likely from the same drawings. Unfortunately, any other plans that I do have, for whatever reason, I'm having technical issues. So I do apologize for that. I can reach back out to the owners and give them that distinct answer. What I could say is this entire development would be going through a development review with our development engineering team. So any appropriate setbacks would have been made under that application.
Mr. King, anything to add there, or are you frozen on the?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, through the engineering review, I believe this is more of a swale as opposed to like a ditch. And it was mentioned there will be the appropriate actual setbacks. So, but we can follow up for sure. There will be opportunity to review that as well in the future.
Any other questions from members of the public? Okay, thank you very much. That's the page here. Okay, we're looking to receive the presentation for information and move the staff recommendation or propose an alternative. So that's one combined mover and seconder. Chris, is your hand still raised there just in error, or do you? Okay, perfect. Councillor Vanadrishi moving. Councillor Huffman, was that a hand seconding? Okay, is there any further discussion? Yep.
There should be an opportunity extended to everybody to either add or remove their name from the petition. And that should be extended basically to everybody here, and then also to the petitioner who, if you would like to remove his name. Yes, yeah, you must do that right now before the report is accepted.
Thank you. Yeah. Hold on, Mr. Councillor Brent, I'm going to pass over to Teresa. Teresa, do you need a minute? You want?
Through the mayor, you can just ask that. We have the petition here if anybody wants to add or remove their name.
Okay, our apologies. Is there anyone here in attendance that wants to add or remove their name from the petition? Okay, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. All right, moved by Councillor Vanadrishi, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming today. If that first drain was applicable to you. Council will now be considering the first and sorry.
I don't know if this is a thing we have to do, but Councillor Duthie was here and he is not here. So do we get him as absent? Oh, okay, cool. Just making sure we didn't. Okay.
Good catch. Thank you. Council will now be considering the first and second reading of a bylaw and consideration of staff report EIS 23004 regarding the now I'm gonna Zdrillik. Thank you, Councillor Huffman. Drain. I believe you corrected that last time around a few years ago. All affected owners and agencies have been notified of this meeting in accordance with the Drainage Act, and I'm going to pass it over to Neil Morris of Case Martin Associates. Welcome, Neil. I understand you have a slide deck, so staff will place it on the screen. Please let them know when you'd like the slide to be advanced, and then you can just use that that button and turn it on whenever you're ready. Give everyone a minute here if you don't mind.
I'm just gonna let people from the previous one walk out first. Thank you, Mayor and honored councilors. I'm pleased to present for the second time the zero leak drain improvement. Next slide, please. So we were originally appointed to do this report under Section 78. It's an improvement of an existing municipal drain. The original drainage system dates back to the 1960s, and it's a tile system. It has approximately less than a quarter inch drainage coefficient, so that's a very low number to today's modern standards. After we were appointed in January 2020, in June we had on-site meetings. It was during lockdown at that point, so we had to do individual meetings with a bunch of the landlords along the drain, and that's what we did at that point. Subsequent to that meeting, we had a number of public meetings where everyone in the watershed was notified, and the original design was changed at that from input. The original design was changed, and we ended up going in a new sort of route. With that route, I finished my report at that point and submitted it in 2021 December, and we held the council meeting later around that time, and the report was referred back to me because there was a lot of discussion about the option that we had gone with, and council had requested us to have additional meetings and allow landowners some time to potentially come up with an agreement between them, which option they preferred. That, though, as well as another public meeting with the members in the watershed. And that's what we did over the last sort of year or so. That's what we've gone through, those processes, allowing landowners to more time to come up with. We felt we've given them enough time to come up with an agreement drain that hasn't occurred yet, as well as the additional meetings we held for the public meeting to express sort of explain the options that we had gone with and some of the reasons why we didn't go with some of the other options. We also, at that point, it was brought to the engineer's attention that the original watershed that was in my report was out of date. It was based off of the historic watersheds. There was a report done in 2003, in the early 2000s, which had delineated the watershed, and we found that there's additional water that came into it, so we've had to update our design slightly to account for the additional water that came into it. It's about another 25 hectares of land that are in this watershed. Next slide, please. So we've gone through a number of different design options with this drain, 8 in total, and the proposed option in my report is what we've determined is the most cost-effective option at this point. As an engineer, I'm sort of obligated to go with that option. If an individual landowner or landowners want to go with one of the other options presented, landowners were given that option to go with one of those options, and they would have to incur the increased cost to going those options. That was put forward to them, and no one in the watershed wanted to go with those options, so we've gone with, at this point, the cheapest option, the most direct route to an outlet with the least amount of impact to sort of all the lands in the watershed. Next slide. So we've also had a number of meetings with environmental agencies, as well discussions with landowners with this drain as well. Next one. So this is a plan of the watershed. The blue line is the total watershed. What we've done is this from the historic watershed, we've broken it into sort of two sort of watersheds at this point. We've got a diversion that takes most of the upper part of the watershed away, which gives relief to the lower section, which is severely undersized as well, and allow with some minor upgrades to some of them and diversion, we're able to sort of achieve our objectives with providing an outlet and giving a sufficient drainage sort of requirements for the area. Right now, there are a number of areas that do flood the existing drain. So across, I think it is the water that's sort of upstream of Concession 2 Townsend Road. There's an area there that floods routinely. And from there, it goes to the property to the south. And that property there experiences quite a bit of flooding. And it basically builds up on that property and eventually can go into sort of a swale across the neighbor's property, which isn't part of municipal drain now, and eventually dumps into the Cockshare Road ditch, which has been deepened to deal with the additional water that's coming into this area, as well as other things. The Cockshare Road ditch, that was one of the options we investigated, but because it's already quite deep, there are hydro poles along the side and it's quite steep. It's quite unsafe to make that any deeper or considerations with that. So right now that's sort of what's happening, and this would relieve a lot of the drainage problems that are occurring upstream, as well as allow an area to the north of Concession Road 11 Townsend to connect in and to tile their land, which is as well is routinely flooding right now. So there is a benefit to this watershed by providing these outlets here. Next slide, please. So just a quick breakdown of the project. The total length of the closed drain that we're proposing is about 1 kilometer of drain. We're abandoning about another kilometer of drain. This is the old tile system from the 1960s. It's in some places 250 millimeter clay tile, and it's in my sort of experience, a tile of that age isn't. There's not much life left in it at this point. And we've even had problems finding where that tile is in some places. So it's most likely not working to its original capacity at all. As well, it's only sized in some areas to a 1/4 inch drainage coefficient, and our system coming in would be to an 1.5 inch drainage coefficient. So we're looking at almost an 8 times greater capacity than what the original system was designed for. Our total area in the watershed is about 294 hectares, and the total cost of the project is about $600,000. Of that, about $400,000 is for construction, and the remainder is for engineering and allowances, as well as administrative costs. The total assessment to the landowners is about $530,000, and about $77,000 is assessed to the county. Of that $77,000, approximately $21,000 is a special assessment to the roads, because we are crossing one of your roads for this project. Next slide. So the objective of this meeting is to allow landowners to have input on the technical aspects of the drain, not to deal with assessments at this point. That will be dealt with at a subsequent meeting, the Court of Revision, and to allow landowners, the opportunity to have any of their technical questions responded to, as well as council as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council to the engineer? Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Through you to the presenter. I just want to go back at a couple times in your report, you mentioned that with different options that you were looking at, that the landowners weren't interested in pursuing those options. Did they have their own other options, or I'm confused as to why they didn't want any of those?
It's actually a little bit of both. So landowners presented options to the engineer. The engineer would cost those options out and present it to the landowners to say, if you want to go with this option, this is what the additional cost will be. And then other times it was the engineer that come up with new options and presented at that point. So it's a combination of both.
Any further questions from councillors? Councillor Brunton, then Michelle.
Yes, very quick. Thank you, Mayor Martin. The county, it's really a rebuild of an existing drain. Is it so? Did the county petition it or initiate it? I guess is a better word in this case.
No, so this is a 78 report. So it's sort of an improvement to an existing drain.
Yeah.
So the county, there was requests from landowners that there were drainage problems here, and then the drain superintendent went out, saw that there was problems, and recommended to council that this system be looked at basically by an engineer. I looked at it, found out that it was less than a quarter of an inch drainage coefficient capacity with the original system, and felt that we had to do something here because it's so sort of old at this point.
Right, but so basically the county initiated it.
Like I said, it was originally, there was complaints sent to the drainage superintendent, and then